I want to say welcome to the class of 2025 and 2026 students and parents. Welcome to College Foundation of North Carolina's 9th and 10th grade college planning workshop. You are in for a treat tonight. We have so much information that we want to share with you regarding what you should know, what you need to do, and what resources are available to help you through this wonderful process of college planning. Parents and students, I know you're so excited about this topic. I want to let you know by the end of this session, some of that anxiety, you're gonna weigh a little less than you did when you got on the line. We're going to relieve some of that anxiety because we're going to give you some tips, some instructions, and what have you on what you need to do. Tonight, you're going to have the pleasure of hearing from three of CFNC's regional representatives. I am Soretta Broadway, CFNC regional representative for the 919 area code. My colleague, Miss Devin McCarthy James, she is the 828 West CFNC regional representative. And my colleague, Mr. Skip Watts, is from the 828 East CFNC regional representative. So as I said before, sit back, buckle up, and be prepared for the wonderful information that we're going to share with you on this evening. Thank you. I'll be back with you in a few moments. I'm now going to turn this over to Miss Devin McCarthy James.
Thank you so much. What a great intro. I love it. I love it. So welcome everybody. Like she said, my name is Devin McCarthy James, and I am out here in the 828 West area out in lovely Asheville. And I am going to kick it off just talking about a little bit of the big picture. First, you probably want to know a little bit about who we are. The College Foundation of North Carolina. We are a state-based nonprofit dedicated entirely to providing free resources and information to students and families throughout the state to help students and families plan, apply, and pay for college. We are really excited to talk about some of those resources today and just in general, things to know as you go through that process. If you have not been on our flagship website, CFNC.org, I do recommend spending some time on there. We will highlight some of our resources, but there is a lot on there that can help you as you navigate this process. Also be aware that that site is translatable to English or Spanish. And we also have a toll-free telephone advice line. So you can call there in English and Spanish as well. So hopefully you find this information useful, but just don't forget that we have tons more to do, a lot of things that you can use on that site after tonight's event. So first, just to give you an overview of what we're going to be talking about, we're going to be setting the stage, talking about some of the things that we feel are important to know at the beginning of the high school process, especially since it seems like a lot of times the college and career process can seem to sneak up on students and families later on in their high school career. And we just don't want that to happen to our students because the earlier you start thinking about these things, sort of less intimidating it becomes when you actually get there. Then we're also going to be talking about ways to explore your career options. It's really important to not put the cart before the horse and make sure that you have some understanding of what career options are out there for you and what might be good fits. Even if you don't 100% know, it's always good to have an eye on what the landscape of careers are that are out there so you can start to hone in on a good fit for you. Then we're going to talk about how to find some of those great college programs. We have 111 colleges in North Carolina alone, and there's many more across the nation. So we want you to start thinking about what those options are that are going to get you into that career that you're looking for at the end of it. What's the right fit college for you and how do you find that? And then finally, we know that this is one area that causes a lot of stress for families, paying for college. So we would never leave you hanging on this one. We want to make sure you have some information about what you should be thinking about now, just to get ready mentally for what's going to happen in the next few years, trying to figure out where those funds are, where those resources are, so that you can end up going to college. Students can end up going to college without, going broke, right? We want to make sure you have all the resources at your fingertips. So first, let me back up a second because I really want students to think about the big picture, right? When we talk about colleges and we talk about careers, you really need to start the process with yourself. So students, this is an exercise I've used with many students over the years, both as a teacher and as a school counselor, and now as a CFNC representative. I encourage students to list as many words as they can to describe themselves. Just list, kind of just brainstorm list, write it out. Now, some students really have a lot of trouble with that. And if that's the case, I encourage students to think about how would your family describe you? What are some words that your best friends would use to describe you? And really come up with a good list of, all those things that you bring to the table. And look at that list and think about what qualities on there stand out to you. Who do you want to be seen as? How do you want to be defined when you're looking at all those words? Because when you think about the college and career process, so much of it is not just the numbers, but also sort of those soft skills, the presentation, the way you brand yourself, right? And so if you spend some time early on in your high school career, really thinking about what are the things that I want to hone about myself? What are the things that I already bring to the table and I can continue to build and grow about myself? Those strengths will lead you into good places, right? So on the screen right there, we have top skills in demand for college and career. And you'll notice they're not numbers, right? They are those soft skills that many of those colleges and those career folks are saying, we value these things. So, are you able to communicate well? Do you have intrinsic self-motivation? Do you show leadership qualities? Are you able to manage your time effectively, right? So all of those kinds of things really do pay off in the long run and help you get those credentials that you're going to use on that college application. So I do encourage you to really think about what are your strengths, what are maybe some things you need to work on, and hone those strengths, really capitalize them, and make sure that you're paying attention to those things that you're not as good at. Now is the time to figure out how to make it work for you. So how do colleges assess students on those things, right? Because colleges are looking at those soft skills in addition to some of the more concrete things. Well, sometimes colleges do have things like interviews, which can really get a sense of who you are, but many colleges don't. So they do need to use your basic college application materials. So when you're starting thinking about your high school journey, you really want to start thinking about, okay, what is my goal? What am I trying to produce at the end of this for those college applications or for those, resume building, job applications, depending on what avenues you're looking at. So some things to think about for the colleges. Admissions decisions are going to vary. Each college is going to weight things differently. But in general, the first thing they're looking at is how successful are you as a student, right? So they're looking at courses taken. What classes are you taking in high school? And are you challenging yourself where it makes sense to challenge yourself, right? Are you maybe moving up to an honors or an AP type class when you feel like you can take on additional challenges? What kind of grades are you making in those classes, right? That's certainly something that they're looking at. And then they'll also look at your class rank, right? How do you compare with your peers at your same high school institution? How does that look? Now, that's the sort of the school-based everyday things, those habits that you build over time to get those good grades, to, build that credential. But on the other hand, you also have test scores. Now, many colleges right now, post-COVID, have had some policies where they say you don't need to submit test scores. Some of them still do require test scores. Keep in mind, and this is a big thing to keep in mind, that even if a college says you don't need to submit test scores, many of them will consider them if you have good test scores. So it's always good to have good test scores. And also many colleges say, well, you don't necessarily have to submit them for admission, but you will need them to be considered for certain scholarships. And so just keep that in mind. Even if a college doesn't ask for scholarship or for test scores in the admissions process, it might be helpful to have in the scholarship process. And then you have the more personalized pieces of your application. So you're talking personal statements and essays, right? You might have one essay, you might have one big essay and maybe a small supplemental. So honing those writing skills and really, exploring yourself as a person and the opportunities that are around you to come up with, content for those essays can be a really great thing to think about. Start exploring those options for you. Recommendation letters, recommendations from teachers, coaches, things like that. Sometimes even counselors, school counselors are asked to write recommendations. Don't forget that they're going to ask you for activities as well. They really do want to know about your extracurricular activities. So particularly when you're looking at four-year colleges and absolutely those competitive four-year colleges, they want to get a sense for not only who you are as a person and how you spend your time, but also how you manage your time. It says something really good about a student who's able to maintain their academics while also participating in extracurriculars. The other thing that they can see through those extracurricular activities is leadership. Even if you don't have a formal leadership role, like captain of a team or president of a club and whatnot, which can be great for that resume for college applications, you can still show leadership in everyday ways in your participation in those kinds of events. So just keep that in mind. There's all sorts of ways that you can start now to make your college application materials richer at the end of your high school career. So first, let's talk about a little bit of those college application requirements. So every college is going to have slightly different requirements for what they're looking for from their students. There's a great variety of colleges out there, but the main three types of colleges we have out there are independent colleges and universities, otherwise known as private colleges and universities, community colleges, which are those two-year open admissions colleges you're going to find throughout the state and beyond. And then, of course, we have 16 wonderful UNC institutions, so UNC system schools. And each of those is going to have a little bit different of a requirement, what they're looking for students to apply. Now, keep in mind that, for instance, each private school is going to set its own requirements. The UNC institutions have a common system called the minimum eligibility requirements. And you can see that on the screen because we just wanted to give you a little bit of base information about that. Now, that 2.5 cumulative weighted GPA, though, that is the minimum GPA to apply to that college. That doesn't necessarily mean that that's the minimum GPA to be admitted. So keep that in mind. This is just to apply. Now, how do I find the admission requirement then? Good question. So the big thing you want to be doing when you know you're interested in an institution is look at those college websites. They will tell you their average admissions profiles of their admitted students. So it's called the freshman profile or the first year profile, and it'll tell you the average GPA, test scores, sometimes other facts about students that have recently been admitted to that school. And that can give you a better idea of what to shoot for, what your goals should be for your GPA and your test scores if you're really looking to get into that school. You also want to think about those classes that you're taking very carefully. So we talked a little bit about the big picture of, the output, on your transcript of what that looks like, but let's talk a little bit about how we get there, right? So when you're looking at high school courses, of course, you want to balance challenge with success, and you want to take advantage of opportunities. One common thing I hear, a big concern for students is, well, my school is smaller and it doesn't have all the AP classes, or it doesn't have all those different kinds of courses and opportunities that some of those bigger high schools offer. And that I totally understand that concern, but I want to tell you that those colleges, those admissions folks are looking at students on how they've capitalized on the opportunities that have been available to them at their school. So one thing that goes to those colleges along with their transcript, the student's transcript, is called a high school profile. And that profile will tell the college exactly what kinds of opportunities you did have. And that's how you're measured, on how you took advantage of the things that were offered to you, not necessarily things that weren't available to you at your school. And so it's also important early on in your high school career to really think about what are all the classes that are offered at your high school. And if you have a goal, if you want to make sure you're getting into a certain advanced class, then it's important to start planning backwards. What classes do you need to take and what semesters do you need to take them in order to make sure you're fitting that in before you graduate from high school, right? So think about those classes that you feel like would really challenge you in positive ways, where you could grow. something, maybe it's an AP class, maybe it is a CTE class, maybe it's an internship class. So just think about that now so that you don't miss the opportunity later. And of course, you want to make sure you just know everything that's available to you. There's honors classes, of course, AP classes, IB classes in some schools, dual enrollment classes with your local community college. Now, those are all going to have really great opportunities to take advanced coursework that's going to look wonderful to those colleges. And it's also going to be accompanied by an additional weight to help boost your GPA if you do well in them. So that's definitely something to think about. But don't forget about the other electives and other CTA classes that can give you some of those professional skills that are wonderful ways to explore different careers. And oftentimes I find students can parlay those skills into, work right now. Maybe it's a summer job or something like that. And then ultimately, those courses, those grades, everything ends up on your transcript. So I do recommend that you look at your transcript at least once a year. You can get that from your high school counselor. You can look at that, just make sure it looks accurate, that you know what your GPA is, that you know what your class rank is, and just be aware that, sometimes students think, well, the first few years of high school don't count. Well, they do, because colleges initially only see the first few years of high school. So just keep that in mind, that even if you didn't have a strong start, you want to keep building on the successes that you do have, and you can absolutely show growth on that transcript over time. So we talked about extracurriculars, and I really I cannot emphasize enough, that is a great opportunity to find topics for those college essays and possibly even improve your recommendation letters. For instance, many students that I've worked with over the years have gotten recommendation letters from teachers who have also sponsored an activity that they were taking part of in the school. And so that teacher had a wonderfully in-depth knowledge of that student, both academically and personally, and could write a wonderful recommendation of those students. And in general, I do recommend just connecting with the adults in your school building, trying to find those mentors that can help you grow, and can help you figure out, what great options and opportunities might be out there for you to get involved in. I also recommend creating that brag sheet. So many people who are going to write recommendation letters for you are going to ask for a brag sheet or a resume. You're going to need to provide that to the colleges in your application. And many times we see seniors get to the point where they're sitting at their application and they're like, I don't remember what I did. So if you can start keeping a running tally of some of the things you're doing just to jog your memory when you get to that point, that's a great idea. And always remember, it doesn't matter so much what you participate in. Sometimes students feel like colleges value one activity over another, and that is absolutely not the case. They really love to see a diverse range of interests in their incoming students. So it doesn't matter so much what you do, but rather that you commit to something, that you're passionate about something, and that you grow your roles in that organization to hopefully, show leadership skills and can learn about yourself and more about that passion of yours. All right, college admissions testing, it needs to be addressed because obviously it's definitely part of that application. So why do they ask for this? Well, they ask for it because colleges have formulas to determine a student's college readiness based on those scores, right? So not all colleges will use it for that, but many colleges do. So we want to make sure that you have this on your radar, that you understand how this works. The other thing, not just admissions, but the other thing that is the colleges can use this for is sometimes to help you test out of basic college courses, which can get you to more advanced courses sooner and hopefully save you a little bit of money, right? If you don't have to pay for that initial course, that's money in your pocket. So we love that. And then also we talked about before, it can be a criteria for a lot of those academic merit-based scholarships. So when we're talking about the tests, what are they? The SAT and the ACT, they're two different tests. They serve the same purpose. Colleges will take one or the other. You can actually submit both if you have both, but they do have some differences. So I definitely recommend, if you're wondering which might be a better option for you, you can actually Google this, but there's little quizzes where you can kind of see which might be a better fit for you in terms of how they're structured and like how many minutes per or seconds to minutes per question the students have, things like that. Also know that there are waivers out there. If you find that finances are a hardship, talk to your school counselor. They can set you up with a waiver, absolutely. And there's plenty of resources and study aids out there. We have some on CFNC, there's others out there. And I personally love when students put some kind of app on their phone or in their email where it sends them like a question of the day. That can be a really great thing to start now when you're early on in your high school career, to just start getting exposure over time. That can really make a huge difference in how familiar you are with the types of questions that are asked and how to answer them. Now, just let me give you an overview of how the testing schedule works, just so you understand what you can look forward to, right? So in 9th grade, students are absolutely eligible to register for a pre-ACT or a PSAT. It does cost money and it's not necessarily offered at every school. So you're gonna have to go on those websites, that ACT.org or the collegeboard.org, to find out where is it offered. Some high schools actually will host it either during the school week or on a weekend. And just the cost is going to vary a little bit depending on those testing costs for that facility. So just know that. Many students will be taking that free pre-ACT in 10th grade, which is a really great opportunity. So public school students, you will get a free pre-ACT during your 10th grade year. This is a wonderful way to practice for the test. Now, of course, you can also take a pre-SAT, a PSAT that year as well, but you're going to have to go out and find that test just like in 9th grade. In 11th grade, things get even more exciting because you get North Carolina public school students will be offered a free ACT. So that'll be one free test score that you have that you can send to those colleges. So you'll have one in the bank, which is wonderful. Just know that the other exciting thing that happens in 11th grade is that PSAT, that score, if you are in 11th grade and you take the PSAT, that test is also used as a qualifying test for national merit scholarships. So that's also an exciting year to take the PSAT as an 11th grader, because that might qualify you for some more money. And then in 12th grade, it's a good idea to look at what tests have you taken and then figure out what tests you want to retake prior to those admissions deadlines. Since some of those admissions deadlines happen in the fall, it might be a good idea to start taking tests in junior year, repeat tests in junior year, and take your final round at the beginning of senior year. A couple of things to know about. Super scoring, that means you can combine the individual section scores into a super score that the colleges will review as one complete score. Now, the trick here is, though, you cannot combine the ACT scores with the SAT scores. It needs to be one test or the other test. So you can combine more than one ACT or more than one SAT. Also know that there are test optional schools out there, or test blind schools. You can absolutely find those. There's a website called fairtest.org that I love. That's a national site that gives up to the date lists of who offers that, if that's really something that's important to you to find. And I didn't want to go past this section without mentioning that we do have student enrichment opportunities that you can find throughout the state of North Carolina on the CFNC website. So definitely, if you're looking for those programs, now's the time to look for those, because many of those summer camps, those summer programs, their deadlines actually come up pretty soon, right? In the winter, sometimes in the early spring semester. So definitely start looking for those opportunities that are out there. One in particular that I know is actually due very soon is the Governor's School, right? The North Carolina Governor's School. So if you're interested about that one, definitely check in with your school counselor as soon as possible, because I know that they have to submit their nominations by December 16th. So definitely check that out. And high school is really, it can be a really daunting time for students. So we really want to make sure that, families, that how to support your students in this process. I know it can be stressful for the students and stressful to watch students, go through this, tough time trying to figure out where they're going and how to get there. So some things that you can help with are some things that we talked about before: identifying strengths, helping with brag sheet entries, keep helping them learn about those college and career options. I know it can be tough to travel for college tours sometimes, but you can do lots of virtual tours these days. So even if you can't get on the college campus right away, it can be great to get that exposure to what colleges offer in your neck of the woods and beyond by going on their websites and seeing what they do offer. Also, don't underestimate the power of hearing how you navigated your decisions in life. How did you find your career path? How did you decide where to go to college? What was that experience like for you? What would you do differently? And students, I encourage you to have those conversations with your parents and other trusted adults in your life, whether it's a teacher or a counselor or whoever, because that can always help you to know some things to think about as you consider your own journey. I also cannot stress this enough. Families, start thinking about what financial plan you may have to support college costs. It's helpful as students get to the point where they're looking at colleges to know what the expectations are. If they are looking at going to a certain college, how much support, how many funds, outside funds, are they going to have to find in order to make that a reality for them? So definitely look at all that together, talk about that together, just so you're on the same page and there are no surprises later in the process. And please, please do not forget about your high school counselors. I'm a little biased since I am a licensed high school counselor, but I really do believe it can be super helpful to meet with high school counselors at least once a year to just talk about what a student's goals are. Oftentimes I would have students come in to meet with me one-on-one. Sometimes it would be a family session where parents would come with the student. But whatever that looks like, it can be very helpful to talk about, what your goals are, what you're thinking of doing in the future in high school, helping plan for your high school and your college experiences, and just kind of learning about resources that are out there, because oftentimes high school counselors have just a gamut of resources that folks don't know about, and they can't know that you're the perfect candidate for one of those opportunities unless you go in and talk to them about your dreams, what you want to do in the future, so that they can support you the best way they can. All right, and without any further ado, I'm going to pass over the baton back to Ms. Soretta Broadway.
Thank you so much, Devin, for that great information. And as she stated, she is a licensed counselor, so she is an expert in all of that information that she has given you. I want to talk to you now about some of the free tools that you will be able to find on CFNC's website. Hopefully, preferably, everyone already has a CFNC account name and password so that they can have access to all of our free resources and keep up with their information at the same time. Well, this is a great time if you haven't already started planning for your future, but we want to assist you with that process. So what we've done is we've created a timeline that starts as early as 8th grade and takes you all the way through your adulthood if you still want to utilize our resources. But if you click on freshman or sophomore, you'll be able to find out activities that are geared specifically towards your grade level. And that keeps you from going all over the website here and there. It's taking you, it's like breadcrumbs where we're taking you where you need to go on the website to find out information that is geared directly toward you, letting you know what the college entrance requirements are for colleges and universities across the state, how you can learn about saving and paying for college and discovering those summer enrichment opportunities that Devin just talked about a few moments ago, as well as creating a dashboard for yourself so you'll be able to go back very easily to the places that you've already visited. Again, we're going to be, giving you some breadcrumbs so you don't have to figure out where was I on the website. So as long as you have that account name, username, and password created, you're going to have access to everything, and you will be able to look at the areas that you have already visited. And we have here a wonderful timeline that we've created. This is actually a product, a flyer that we have created that we hand out at college fairs. Your counselors may have ordered a supply, but if you go to that link, it'll take you directly to this particular handout, which lets you know what you should be focusing on throughout the course of the year, what you should be doing in the fall as a 9th or 10th grader, what you should be doing in the winter as a 9th or 10th grader, and what you should be doing in the spring as a 9th and 10th grader, because there are specific things that need to be done at the beginning of the school year, in the middle of the school year, and prior to you leaving, going home for the summer. So this is a wonderful piece for you to look at online, or you can call us or request that we send a copy to you so that you can have it at your fingertips. So planning for your career. This could be something that you may have not given a lot of thought behind. Some of you may already know exactly what career you want to pursue. But if you haven't, we want to help you with that as well. Sometimes we as adults, we're still trying to figure it out, but there's no wrong or right answer. You just want to find out what suits you, and we help you with that. We have some wonderful tools, some assessments that you can take advantage of on CFNC's website. On the next slide, that's going to help you learn about yourself. We have assessments entitled, such as the ones that you see here: Interest Profiler, Basic Skills Survey, Work Value Sorter, Career Cluster Survey, Transferable Skills Checklist, and the Career Key. As you can see, it gives you a general idea of the timeline that it takes for the students to get through these particular assessments. But keep in mind, as long as you have that CFNC account name and password, you can pick up where you've left off. If you hover over it, we'll give you a description of what that particular assessment entails, so you'll know which one best suits you. But it allows you to reflect on your strengths, your weaknesses, different goals for your future, your personality type, value, skills, etc. So in essence, the bottom line is that we're going to be able to help you be connected with careers that best suit you. We have partnered with NC Careers. Many of you, I'm sure, have heard of that particular organization, where we will be able to make you or have it more accessible for you to have the most relevant, up-to-date information regarding the careers here across the state of North Carolina. It's going to help you understand the entry-level salary, the educational background that you would need in order to be successful or be more, what shall I say, more marketable for that particular career. We're also going to be able to tell you the projection of jobs that will be available within that particular career as well, by you having access to NC Careers information. It's a single sign-on that you're going to have. So if you are on CFNC's website, you can toggle back and forth to NC Careers and back to CFNC or what have you. So we wanted to holistically provide everything you need to know about exploring careers and being able to see information at your fingertips regarding all of the occupational clusters that you can go into with any one career that you may choose. Planning for college, you want to find your fit. So we have updated and enhanced our college search. Believe it or not, you can search every college across the country through CFNC's website, and there's over 4,000 plus colleges embedded within CFNC. However, it's defaulted on the great state of North Carolina's colleges and universities, where you can search colleges. You can actually select the different requirements that you're looking for in a particular college. What college type? Of course, again, the program type that you want to go into. We can give you the specifics on those various colleges and universities that come up in your results. As you can see here on this particular slide, we're not partial to UNC Chapel Hill, but all of the colleges and universities, we will make you aware of what the in-state tuition is, the out-of-state tuition, also the number of students on that particular college campus. And we give you a little summary about the various, about the college and university. But most importantly, we make you aware of whether or not that college and university offers the program that you're looking for. So when you search colleges by programs and majors, you're only going to get the results of the colleges and universities that have the program or major that you wish to go into. Okay. Now, what are the different types of colleges? There's so many different types of colleges, so you have a lot to definitely think about. You have your public and private colleges, in-state, out-of-state, 2-year, 4-year colleges and universities, vocational, technical, colleges with special focus. So, of course, you want to make sure you want to find out, first of all, what you're looking for in a particular college or university, and then you would then look at the different types. If you want to start out at a community college first, and then maybe later transfer to a four-year college or university. But again, just sit down and talk with your parents, your loved ones, your counselor, or what have you, about what you're looking for in a college or university. And I assure you that you will be routed to that particular college or university through CFNC's website, because there are all different types of colleges and universities to choose from here in the state of North Carolina, not to mention across the country. We also have a wonderful transfer planner on our website for those of you who may want to start out at that community college level. There is a comprehensive articulation agreement between the community colleges and the four-year colleges and universities here in the state of North Carolina to make you aware of what courses will be transferable from that two-year college to the four-year college or university. So that is a wonderful tool to take advantage of on CFNC's website if you decide to take that route, starting out at that community college and then later transferring. I'm now going to turn this over to my colleague, Mr. Skip Watts, who's going to talk with you about paying for college and getting prepared for that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Toretta. I really enjoyed that opportunity to listen to all the valuable skills and life advice and information on colleges and careers. But now we're going to have to bring it down a little bit. We're going to have to talk about how we're going to pay for college. And this first slide, as a parent, is frightening. When I look at these costs for the UNC campuses and the community college and the private college averages in North Carolina, that is just, that looks so expensive. I want for both students and parents to know that these costs are just averages. We're not all going to be expected to pay that total average cost of attendance at a school. The cost of attendance actually includes tuition, but also room and board and required fees. And so if a student, for example, is going to a community college and they're living at home, they don't have to factor in that room and board, may be able to save considerably because they don't have to factor that in. One thing we're going to talk about tonight is ways that we can reduce the cost of college. College, unfortunately, is getting more expensive every year. My goal with CFNC is to help students understand the scholarship process and also the grant process. Those two things are commonly referred to in the college financial aid circle as gift aid. Gift aid is free money. The more gift aid we can maximize, the less we have to pay out of pocket for college or potentially borrow. A lot of students in North Carolina and nationally are choosing to simply borrow to pay for their total cost of attendance at a school. I would like for students to think past that and instead try to maximize gift aid and then minimize student loan balances. Student loans can come from the federal government, or they can potentially come from a local banking entity or even a student loan conglomerate. At any rate, students, once we identify a career path, it's helpful to figure out what that first year salary is going to be after we graduate from college and we start in that career field. And then we use that as a ceiling for how much we can comfortably borrow. In a perfect world, I want students to maximize grant scholarship funding, perhaps also work through a work-study program or maybe off campus through a employment opportunity there to help pay for college. Ideally, we want to minimize those student loans. Now, merit-based aid is another focal point in the financial aid process. Merit-based aid is commonly thought of as scholarships that are based on something that makes you unique. That could be your academics in high school, and that could be your musical inclination, that could be your athletic prowess. Oftentimes, merit-based aid is a good opportunity to start finding scholarships to pay for college. Need-based aid is different. Need-based aid is determined by the family's financial situation. In order to be considered for need-based aid, students and families have to complete a process called the Free Application for Federal Student Aid, otherwise known as the FAFSA. After completing the FAFSA, the student may be eligible for a Pell Grant. They will be eligible for federal direct loans, and they may actually be eligible for institutional scholarships that come from the college itself, or maybe opportunities through the state of North Carolina. We have to start that process again with the FAFSA, which I'll talk about more in just a second. So before I dig into the FAFSA, these are the main sources of financial aid. The biggest is the federal government. and their primary vehicle for financial aid is the Pell Grant. By completing the FAFSA, our score dictates our eligibility for the Pell Grant. The lower our expected family contribution or our score on the FAFSA, the more Pell Grant eligibility we have. There's also state aid that comes directly from the state of North Carolina. By completing the FAFSA, we are potentially eligible for opportunities like the North Carolina Lottery Scholarship. There's also colleges and universities themselves. Oftentimes, the biggest scholarships a student receives come from the college campus. And so students not only need to be focused on incoming freshman scholarships and transfer scholarships, but also scholarships that come from the university later on while they're on campus. There's private scholarships as well. Those could come from your church. They could come from your employer. They could come from civic organizations around your town or county. And there's also scholarships that can potentially come from the student's employer or maybe even the parent's employer. We have to think outside of the box with regards to how we're going to pay for college. The more aid we can attract from multiple resources, the better off we're going to be and the less we're going to have to borrow or pay out of pocket for our college experience. Okay, now I've alluded several times to the free application for federal student aid, otherwise known as the FAFSA. The FAFSA and the financial aid process in general changes from year to year. And there is a chance that some of the specifics we'll talk about with regards to the FAFSA may change by the time you're a senior in high school and you're applying for financial aid your freshman year in college. So again, we're not going to do the FAFSA our freshman or sophomore year. We're going to wait until the fall of our senior year to complete the FAFSA. Currently, the FAFSA opens up in October, and it's helpful to keep that in mind because the earlier we submit the FAFSA, the more aid we can possibly maximize. Keep in mind that financial aid, both at the federal and state level, and also the institutional level, is first come, first serve. So the earlier we submit that FAFSA, the better off we are. Once we complete the FAFSA, the student's information will be electronically sent to the schools the student indicates it will be sent to. Students, you can actually choose 10 different colleges to have your FAFSA results electronically sent to. Once that school receives your FAFSA and accepts you for admission, then they will reply with a financial aid award package, which will let you know exactly how much that college costs and what kind of scholarship opportunities and student loan opportunities exist. Again, I mentioned October 1st as being the beginning of the FAFSA season. If perhaps you know of an upperclassman, maybe a senior that has yet to complete the FAFSA and thinks they may go to college, please recommend to that person they do that FAFSA as soon as possible. But again, just to reiterate, we're not going to start that FAFSA until our senior year. And when we are seniors, we're going to head to studentaid.gov to start that process. By going to studentaid.gov, we can also find really important information about the overall financial aid picture. For example, if we want to explore the Teach Grant or if we want to explore the Pell Grant, all that information is going to be located within studentaid.gov. So students, if you're really proactively minded, save that website or bookmark that website so you can go back to it continually while you're in high school. Now, parents, you might be wondering what kind of information is required of you on the FAFSA. Well, currently, the FAFSA requires information from 2 years prior to the student's college enrollment. So if a student is currently a high school senior, they're going to enroll in college in 2023. Okay, so they'll need to use their 2021 taxes to complete their FAFSA. The same will probably be true for you guys, but that is subject to change. From that information, the federal government's going to take into account the family's earnings from work, their adjusted gross income, their tax liability, assets of the day that you file the FAFSA, and marital status. They're also going to be looking for other relevant pieces of information that extends all the way out to the age of the parents. This is actually one opportunity for older parents to really excel because the federal government actually allows a little bit of more flex for older parents. So if you're older, that's a good thing in this respect. Now, the expected family contribution, as I mentioned earlier, is your score on the FAFSA. The lower our EFC, the better for financial aid related purposes. For example, if I were to sit down with my student and complete the FAFSA and I had a 0 EFC, that means my student would be eligible for well over $6,000 in the form of a Pell Grant. They may also be eligible for other opportunities, again, through the state or the college itself. As the EFC goes up, the student's eligibility for the Pell Grant goes down. Okay. Now, a lot of parents are using a new tool that was created about 5 years ago called the IRS data retrieval tool. They're using this in effort to simplify the FAFSA process. By using this IRS data retrieval tool, which is actually within the parent section of the FAFSA, by using this tool, the IRS basically auto-populates all the financial related information onto the parent section of the FAFSA. It can really expedite the process, but more importantly, it can potentially eliminate any errors that might be human related. So again, if you are going to complete the FAFSA for a student right now, it would be helpful to use that IRS data retrieval tool. Once that student completes the FAFSA, they'll receive a student aid report. That student aid report is going to give them their expected family contribution. It's also going to give them information like their Pell Grant eligibility, maybe student loan eligibility from the federal government. It may also tell the students some different kinds of errors that might have popped up. And there may be a request for some additional information to verify any potential errors that the federal government or the school itself perceives. Now, there's other ways to pay for college as well, outside of paying out of pocket or finding grant and scholarship money or even borrowing. As parents of 9th and 10th graders, we can also start thinking about college savings plans. It's never too early to start saving for college. North Carolina actually has a North Carolina 529 college savings plan, and I would recommend that as a very reputable vehicle to start saving for your students' education. There's also payment plans at the university or community college. And again, there's all kinds of scholarship opportunities out there. And the earlier we start our scholarship research, students, the better. There's scholarships at the local level that could come from your church, that could come from your employer if you're lucky enough to have a job. That could be state-based scholarships, all of which are administered through or promoted rather through CFNC.org. We also can take advantage of institutional scholarships or scholarships that actually come from the college itself. And then I also have listed 4 different national scholarship search engines. I don't think this is the first go-to because this is a really competitive process at the national level. Instead, students, I recommend you really start looking at those institutional and state-based and local scholarships first. The earlier we start our research, the more organized we are, the more potential aid we can find. So again, I encourage you to utilize all those resources as soon as possible. Now, most families do have to pay for at least a portion of their college, their children's college expenses. So 529 can really help because it helps that student and that family save in advance. So there are all kinds of different ideas that you can use to boost your 529 savings account. Students, you might want to think, if you're really proactively minded, about asking for contributions to your college savings instead of like new video games or new clothes or new shoes. My student, my sophomore in high school, is really into Nike tennis shoes. I think he would be well advised to ask for a 529 contribution as opposed to a new pair of SB Dunks. Okay, there is currently in development a 12 Days of Education 529 program. This is currently in the works, so this is kind of a sneak peek. But in the coming days, you'll see on CFNC, there will be an opportunity to enter to win $5,529 for your student's college 529 account. So you can see all the specifics on this slide. If you want to check in maybe later on this week on CFNC, you can find all the specific entry information. Again, that's on CFNC.org, and it's the 12 Days of Education program. Now, also in CFNC, we kind of specialize in financial aid resources. So we have all kinds of help for families completing the FAFSA. We also have all those scholarships that are administered by the state. They're all promoted through CFNC.org. You can find out information about work study and student loans. There's even a financial aid actual handbook. So if you just want a glossary to help better understand this language that we speak, all of that information is free on CFNC. So take advantage of that. But also, if you're inclined to use YouTube, you might want to check out a lot of the videos that we have regarding the college planning process on YouTube as well. We have a CFNC newsletter. You can sign up for that newsletter on the CFNC landing page. You have to have an account. So again, students, you need to create a username and password, but that newsletter can give you some really good, relevant information that can help you through the high school process and then the transition process onto the university or community college. We have all kinds of upcoming webinars as well. If you take the time to scroll to the bottom of the landing page on CFNC.org, you'll see our upcoming events. So keep an eye out for those, and also keep an eye out for an email regarding a feedback survey that we'll send out in the coming days regarding this program itself. Now, if you ever have any questions about the financial aid process or college planning or success in high school, we're available through our 866 number. You can also post questions in the chat right now, or if you just want to chime in and ask questions by voice, I think we can open up the conversation. I also want to encourage you guys to take advantage of our social media. We're really trying to push out information not only through YouTube, but through Facebook and Instagram. And even if you're inclined, we have information on LinkedIn for parents as well. So definitely keep up with our social media. You can see here that every individual rep for CFNC has a social media presence. So does CFNC itself. So again, you can just kind of check us out on those resources and hopefully get some valuable information as well. Now, again, I'm going to open up this segment of the program for questions. So parents and students, if you have any questions that we can answer, we would love to be here to assist. Well, I'd like to speak for the group and thank everybody for your attendance tonight. Please feel free to rely on CFNC resources while you're in college or while you're in high school and as you're planning for college. All our tools, all our resources are free. Again, thank you for your time this evening. Colleagues, anything you'd like to say in closing?
Just thank you all for being here. We hope this was useful for you, and I'm excited to see what y'all do in the coming years. You know, you're getting a jump on this early, so I'm excited to see our next generation of young North Carolinians in action.
Yes, class of 2025 and 2026 finished strong. Woo-hoo!
Thanks, y'all. Have a great night.